Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into potentially the biggest question mark on Nebraska's football team this fall, the linebackers. Going into 2024, the Huskers lose their two most productive players in that room, and because of that, the Blackshirts have had an influx of transfers, inexperience, and just raw talent. So we're going to dive into every single player in this linebacker room and go over the pros, the cons, and give it a letter grade at the end. So really quick, before we get into this deep dive, make sure to hit that like button. If you're starting to get excited about the season, I know I am. And while you're at it, hit that subscribe button. I'm posting a video every single day this summer talking Nebraska football, Nebraska recruiting. So if you want to stay up to date with this program or just want to help me hit 4,000 subs, please hit that button. It would be greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let's dive into it. Talking about the linebacker room for Nebraska. And like I said in the intro, this is a massive question mark for the Huskers. You lose Luke Reimer and Nick Henrich, your two most productive backers. And not only that, you brought in a transfer or two, and you have a lot of inexperience. So let's just start it off with my projected starters in that linebacker room. And let's go to Stefon Thompson first, transfer from Syracuse. And this is a player who really did it all for that program the last 4 years. He started almost every single game for them, and a lot of that was under Tony White, who was the past DC over there for the Orange, now with Nebraska. So he's used to the 3-3-5 defense. He's very productive. He's honestly been one of the best linebackers in all of college football over the last couple of years. So there's a lot to like about Stefon Thompson. He's great in the run game. He's, again, like I mentioned, a great tackler. And looking at him, he's 6'1", he's 250. He is built for the position, but there is a question mark around Stefon Thompson. When he got to campus, Matt Rhule said he was a little bit out of shape. He was not ready for conditioning, ready for football drills. So as that developed, he said that he started to get in the rhythm again. He was ready by the end of spring ball. He was back in the way he should be, back in shape. So again, Stefon Thompson, hopefully that question mark does not stay there. He's a leader. He's a guy that hopefully is going to be a rock in this linebacker room. That's what you're looking for. You're just looking for a veteran presence who can kind of lead by example for a lot of these younger players. So hopefully Stefon Thompson figures it out, and we need him going into fall camp very soon. So that's a guy I project to start for Nebraska. But let's take it to a player at the jack position, basically a hybrid linebacker slash member of the defensive line, and this is MJ Sherman. So MJ is not a player I would have projected to start 2 months ago. I would have thought Chief Borders would have started at that spot. However, Chief Borders entered the transfer portal. He went over to Pitt. And now MJ Sherman really has no competition. He will be starting at jack. And this is a player who was one of the most overrated transfers for Nebraska I can remember. Last year, he transferred in from Georgia, and people automatically were saying, oh, he's going to have 9, 10 sacks even. He never played for the Bulldogs. He played special teams. That's really primarily where he found the field for the Bulldogs, but he never played defense. And because of that, you saw a lot of growing pains last year for Nebraska. He only had 16 tackles, which was not even close to, being one of the more productive players on this team. He didn't have a sack. He really just didn't play well for the Cornhuskers. And because of that, a lot of players took his playing time. Prince Wellamamulin played over him. Chief Borders played over him. So we're hoping that MJ Sherman can play as well as we thought he was going to play last year. Man, it's a prove-it year for him. He's coming on his last year of eligibility. Matt Rhule said he's been improved in spring ball. Hopefully we see that again in fall camp. But, man, big year for MJ Sherman. We're hoping he can turn a corner. Let's talk about a guy who's honestly a little underrated, and this is Buda Wright, also goes by the name of Javin Wright. And this guy quietly had the second most tackles on the team last year with 51. He's a do-it-all type of linebacker, listed at 6'5", 220. He can play in the secondary. He can play at rover. He can play as an inside backer. So you'll love his quickness. You'll love his speed. This is a guy who we've always known about the talent when it comes to Buda Wright. He got hit by the injury bug when he got on campus a couple years ago. He had blood clots, which kept him off the field, but finally was healthy going into last year. And man, he was really productive. So we're hoping he can take another step. You feel good about him. And hopefully, again, he can be that player who we look back on and say, yeah, he was an all Big Ten caliber player. Yeah, he's a guy who's going to be signed in the NFL. So another player who I think is going to be in the mix. But let's get into some of these depth players for Nebraska. Mikai Gbayor is just my guy. I've talked about him for over a year now, about how I expect him to break out. But I love this player. I mean, barely played in his career before last year. Finally got playing time. Had about 20 tackles He's a player who I could see him get up to that 50 tackle range this year for the Black Shirts. He's from New Jersey. I mean, we talk all the time about New Jersey tough, but he's a mix of physicality and speed. He's a freak athlete, and he's just a stereotypical Matt Rhule type of linebacker. So hoping he can really, again, break out this year. It's a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda for this room because there's a lot of talent, but a lot of guys who just aren't proven. So watch out for Mikai Gbayor. But let's take it to a depth piece who is experienced. John Bullock had 50 tackles last year for the Cornhuskers, former walk-on with this program, and I think he's going to be a little bit of a bench piece for the Cornhuskers this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts, throughout the year if injuries hit or he works his way up, but he's going into his last year of eligibility. Listen, John Bullock is just a really, really high-level walk-on. He does things the right way. He's a great tackler. Nothing he does wows you. He's not incredibly, impressive in the speed department, in the height department, in the weight department. He's not an NFL type of player, but John Bullock, he just does enough to be a productive player, and that's honestly all you're looking for from a player like him who's coming off the bench or just giving you valuable reps. So for that reason, I really like John Bullock. Again, just doesn't move the needle, but you love him as a depth piece. And honestly, to be a leader in that room, that might be the most important thing that he will bring to the table. So let's talk about one guy who's just another my guy who's really sprouted up in Nebraska circles recently. And this is Vincent Shavers. I mean, true freshman guy coming out of Miami, Florida. I talked about him before anybody else talked about him in January when he signed. I said, watch out for Vincent Shavers. Nobody knew who his name was. Oh, we're sitting here in April and everybody's hyping him up. Who could have predicted this? This guy, Vincent Shavers. When I made my film video about him, I compared him to, Levante David, just a freak athlete, a player who might not make the best read or the best, play in coverage, but he's gonna find a way to get to the football and make a play for his defense. So I love Vincent Shavers. He's gonna be in the mix to start. His dad says he's been practicing with the ones and the twos, so Vincent Shavers will be a player to watch out for this fall. Some other players in this linebacker room, Dylan Rogers, a player who's going into his third year. Maverick Noonan, a second-year player who honestly might have played if he didn't get injured before his true freshman campaign. So another player, again, to watch out for there. So the linebacker room, a lot of talent there. Do not get me wrong. It's just a bunch of inexperience. So for that reason, my grade for this unit is going to be a B-. Honestly, not that bad. Talking about a unit that's a huge question mark, but I actually feel good about the depth. I think Mikai Gbayor is going to step up in a big way. I think Vincent Shavers will play amazing as a true freshman. I think John Bullock is going to be that trusty, walk-on who steps up and, does all the right things. So I love the depth. I think, honestly, the reason why I don't have it higher is because I think there's a lack of top-end talent, at least right now. Stefon Thompson is not a player who I think is going to be an NFL draft pick. I don't think, Buda Wright will be a high NFL draft pick. So there is a lack of top-end talent, at least right now. But when we're looking at it next year and Vincent Shavers is more developed and Mikai Gbayor is more developed, that will not be the case. Last takeaway is that this unit is the most athletic the linebackers have been in a very long time. All love to Luke Reimer, Nick Henrich. They were phenomenal backers for the Cornhuskers. They were not athletic. They were not players who were speedy or, had a bunch of, great height, great weight. Really, they didn't have much upside, to be completely frank with you. They were just solid Big Ten backers. That's different. You have players with real upside, real potentials, real athletic qualities, players who, run 4.5 speeds, guys who are just, craven to find the running back, find the quarterback. That's what's different about this linebacker room, and for that reason, they have a high potential and a very high ceiling. So B- there for the linebacker room. Could be a lot worse, but could be better. Hopefully, this unit takes a big step in 2024. So let me know down in the comment section below. What is something you agree with, maybe disagree with about my assessment with the linebackers? And hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.